Yo! What is going on, guys? It is time to talk the Grand Ole Opry. The Grand Ole Opry is turning 100. And, man, what a cool thing. I've written a couple of poems about the Grand Ole Opry. I'm trying to think, because I didn't get to be as prepared for this episode as what I wanted to be. So, sorry, but it should still be a lot of fun and still have a lot of really cool info. That being said, things have been crazy lately. Like, and this next month is going to be super busy. So, recording is going to be nuts. Trying to do even, like, short content is going to be nuts. Except for, like, cooking stuff, because that is what has been scheduled. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to try to do some other stuff, because I want to do a lot of really cool things this month. Well, all the time, but this month in particular. I'm so excited. I've got a lot of fun things planned, but I really want to focus primarily on the Grand Ole Opry today. That being said, like, where my mind was heading before I spiraled like that was, I had some poems that I've written about the Grand Ole Opry that I wanted to share, but I don't know their location. I'm going to try and find them, like, while we're discussing and stuff, but if not, I'm sorry, because, like, one of them I actually thought, man, it would be so cool to go to the original Opry, the Ryman Auditorium, where we're going to be focusing most of our discussion today about, because, like, that's the important one. Not that the new building isn't, like, super cool and super, like, getting steeped in history all the time, but it's not the original Opry. It's not the Ryman, which they still do shows in, and so I think that the Opry is still the Ryman, in my own personal opinion. That being said, why don't we just start diving into some really cool history info? Obviously, the clip that I played at the beginning with Randy Travis doing the Amen, super emotional. I don't care if I get hit with a copyright for it, just because it's such a big deal that he can still do the Amen, because, like, he can't. If you listen to the Randy Travis's 2 Country episode, he can't do much, and it's unfortunate because it's out of his control. The dude just got hit with a super, super heavy stroke during pneumonia, and it's a harrowing, I believe is the word I'm looking for, tale. So, man, it just, like, pulls at my heartstrings to hear him still do the Amen on Forever and Ever. Amen. Because, like, think about how big that song is in country music. Think about whenever he came in, like, how pivotal it was that we had him, that we had George Strait, that we still had some of the guys before him still around, Johnny Cash, Waylon, George Jones, Hank Jr. You know, there was still a handful of guys, and now we're down to Willie and Hank Jr. because we've lost Chris Christopherson, because we've lost all these guys. And it, you know, who's going to fill their shoes really hits home to me in a lot of ways. And that song is so akin to this particular subject, because, like, you know, George Jones asked, who's going to play the Opry? Well, Randy did. Randy stepped up and was that guy. Carrie Underwood more recently, and we're going to get into all those names and everything here in just a little bit. But it's such a wonderful. Let's see. Here's a quote from Coldplay. Greatest theater in the world. We're talking about the Ryman. So, hold up. Why is this thing being weird? Okay. Most iconic stage. This is all from Ryman's webpage. Which, if I do a good job today, I'll make sure that it's in the links, because I wanna try and get that. So, a world-renowned concert hall, rock and roll landmark, famous former home of the Grand Ole Opry, the Ryman's the building. Like, to me, in this case, like, the Grand Ole Opry is the Ryman. But the Grand Ole Opry is technically the music show that they're talking about. But in music's most iconic stage, Ryman Auditorium is the mother church, which, if you listened to the end of the episode last week, I said that. Bringing artists and fans together for unforgettable music moments. This beloved Nashville landmark isn't just another nightly music venue or daytime tourist stop. This is hallowed ground. Today's biggest performers, from Elvis and Johnny Cash to B.B. King, Lizzo to Harry Styles, Foo Fighters to Joan Jett, the Ryman draws artists from all genres and styles of music. Top comedians, authors, political figures, and entertainers from all walks of life have made history inside these storied walls and continue to. Night after night. Originally built as the Union Gospel Tabernacle over 130 years ago, the Ryman was designated as a beacon for evangelicals in downtown Nashville, but it became country music's main stage in the 50s and 60s as the home of the Grand Ole Opry. Now, as the birthplace of over a century of modern music defining moments, it's one of the most celebrated venues in the world. Okay, it started, so Divine Intervention is the title of this one. It started with Thomas Ryman, a wealthy and crude riverboat captain who spent his time partying in downtown Nashville. A revivalist from Georgia, Reverend Sam Jones, remarkably convinced Ryman to turn his life over to God in one spirited sermon at 8th Avenue, Spruce Street at the time, and Broad Street. Ryman began dreaming of a grand tabernacle for religious gatherings in the city. 7 years later, with the help of donations from the community, the Union Gospel Tabernacle opened 3 blocks from where Ryman was converted. When Ryman passed away on December 23, 1904, the Union Gospel Tabernacle was unofficially renamed Ryman Auditorium. 40 years later, the name became official. So, there's you a little bit of a backstory on the Ryman. However, let's give you some backstory on the Grand Ole Opry itself. Okay, because that's what we're here for, right? So, the show that made country music famous. The Grand Ole Opry is the stage that showcases country music's past, present, and future. We've been home to the art form's growth and evolution for over 98 years. Experience a glimpse of country history with a peek of the father of bluegrass, Bill Monroe, and his Bluegrass Boys performing Sally Gooden on the Opry stage in 1985 with this downloadable video. So there's a downloadable video there. I'm really going to do my best to have really good stuff in the comment section for you guys, or the description or whatever. Alright, so WSM is born in 1925. A radio-loving founder of National Life and Accident Insurance Company convinced the company to launch its own radio station, WSM, named after their slogan, "We Shield Millions." National Life built a small studio with a window in its downtown Nashville office, and WSM went live for the first time on October 5th, 1925. The first Grand Ole Opry. A month after WSM's first show, National Life hired George D. Hay, a prominent announcer and program director known for his National Barn Dance program at WLS in Chicago. Hay launched the WSM Barn Dance with Uncle Jimmy Thompson, a 77-year-old fiddle player, on November 28, 1925, widely known as the day the Grand Ole Opry was born. So, they did it this spring, but obviously the full 100 years won't be until November 28th of this year, which is exactly Thanksgiving Day this year, I believe. Let's take a look. Plus, with like busy touring schedules and everything, you have to get things in when you can. So, especially whenever you're trying to get that many people in one place. November 28th is Black Friday. So, again, can you imagine, like, trying to get all those people there from their, like, after trying to spend time with their families and everything? It'd be hectic. So, yeah. Why not do that? So, A Name That Lasts. In December of 1927, following an NBC broadcast of Walter Damrosch's Music Appreciation Hour, George D. Hay proclaimed on air, "For the past hour, we've been listening to the music taken largely from the Grand Opera. But from now on, we will present the Grand Ole Opry, the new name for the WSM Barn Dance Stuck. And one of the flyers that they have is it's a program release from May 30th to June 13th, and they got Lucky Strike Green. Let's see, best tunes of all. Let's see, it's hard because they've got some of the stuff covered up with pictures. But they got a picture of the glare on the camera. There's a picture of Hank down there in the bottom. You can barely see it. But, yeah. We're going to definitely be discussing... Oh, that's cool. There's a picture of Johnny and June. So, obviously, Johnny and June played at the Grand Ole Opry and were members. Hank they fired him from the Opry, and I love that part of the song, The Conversation, where, they fired him from the Opry and that caused his greatest pain. Like, I love Waylon, I love Hank Jr., and I absolutely enjoy me some Hank Sr. They're part of the reasons why this podcast is called The Tin Roof. Because of that mighty fine picking and grinning. This show is as much metal as it is country. Both genres are very, very near and dear to me. Man, I love music, obviously. So, the Mother Church of Country Music. Some of the Grand Ole Opry's most historic moments happened inside Ryman Auditorium, which is why we discussed Ryman a little bit already. Hank Williams made his debut. Patsy Cline, Loretta Lynn, Willie Nelson, Jeannie Seeley, and Dolly Parton joined the Opry family. Elvis Presley made his only Opry appearance. Johnny Cash became a member, met his wife, and during one infamous show, of course we were going to talk about it. How could we not? If you've seen the movie Walking Tall, you've seen the moment. He's actually fired from the Opry before he goes out on stage. And so they're like, this is it. The issue was, we've talked about it before on this show, late last year, I think it was, whenever we came back from our really long break in the fall, where Johnny had a huge drug problem. He was taking so much speed and stuff that the numbers are unreal. Trying to recall, it was a lot. We'll just go with it was a lot. And so he gets fired from the Opry. He goes out on stage and he kicks out all the lights on the front of the stage, and basically because he was mad. And back then, they were like the big halogen type bulbs that, not nothing like what we have today, LEDs and all that stuff. It was state of the art for their time, but definitely would have not been for our time. And so he's just up there as he's doing his thing, and it was a really, really big ordeal. Leaving an old friend is what the next section is titled. So the Opry broadcasted its last Friday show from the Ryman on March 15th, 1974. George Morgan closed out the show. So they have not been over at the Ryman in a lot longer than what I thought. Closed out the show with Candy Kisses. After the Opry, Johnny and June Carter Cash sang Will the Circle Be Unbroken on the following Grand Ole Gospel time to end the evening. So the next night, they open up the first show, which would have been March 16th, 1974, which is, okay, that makes sense as to why they did the 100-year thing when they did, because that would have been celebrating the opening of the Opry building that they're in now. But still, even though they've been there my entire life and then some, I still view the Ryman as a very important place, and people have continued to play the Ryman, like I said, for years. It's such a big deal. So Roy Acuff opened the first show in the new 4,440-seat Grand Ole Opry House with a performance of the Wabash Cannonball. President Richard Nixon was in attendance and led the Opry audience in singing Happy Birthday to First Lady Pat Nixon. The night featured a packed lineup, so each artist was limited to performing just one song. Man, it's so cool to like look at all this different stuff. In the late 70s, they were part of a PBS fundraising special. The show did not get regular television broadcast until 1985. And nowadays, like, everything they do is televised. And so, at about this time, the Opry starts welcoming people into the members, people like John Conley, Ricky Skaggs, Lori Morgan, Reba McEntire, Randy Travis, Patty Loveless. And so that starts happening in the late 80s. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, that must have been the moment that they asked Alan Jackson to be a member of the Opry. Because I remember reading about that in the in Randy Travis's book. Oh, I wish I could like figure out. Maybe it'll here. Let me turn the brightness down on my screen. I'll even like try to like put like edit a clip in there if I've got time. But look at that. That is so cool. And of course we got Charlie Pride up here, so we'll like. There you go. Dude, just how cool. So, the 1990s brought some of the Opry's most monumental moments. Minnie Pearl and Jimmy Dickens celebrated their 50th anniversary with the show. Roy Acuff made his final Opry performance 1 month before he passed. Okay, so Roy Acuff and Charlie Pride were there, but Charlie Pride, Garth Brooks, Alan Jackson, Vince Gill, Emmylou Harris, Martina McBride, Diamond Rio, and Trisha Yearwood were all welcomed to the Opry family. Darius Rucker joins the Opry family. Let's see. Throughout the 2000s, the show and its cast paid tribute to fallen members: Hank Williams, Waylon Jennings, Minnie Pearl. In 2002, the Opry celebrated its 4,000th consecutive Saturday night broadcast, and the family continued to grow, adding Brad Paisley, Dierks Bentley, Trace Adkins, Carrie Underwood, and Montgomery Gentry, among others. May of 2010. Oh, wow. This is crazy. So, I'm going to have to try to put this picture up there, too. In May of 2010, the venue was ravaged by a historic flood. And, I mean, it's bad. Like, you can't tell, like, where the stage is. Well, I mean, you can see, like, the barn building that's on the back, you know, the background of the stage. But it's all level with water. Like, the stage itself is underwater. It took 5 months to restore the Grand Ole Opry. And the show continued at other venues throughout Nashville. Some at the Ryman, and even some at the War Memorial Auditorium. The Opry was restored and ready to go in September 28th of 2010. They've in 2014 they celebrated 40 years at the current building, the Grand Ole Opry House, and it was led by actually Old Crow Medicine Show. And 2010s brought people like Blake Shelton, Keith Urban, Darius Rucker, Old Crow Medicine Show, and Little Big Town into the Opry family. We're going to go through like the whole list here in a little bit. So yes, I remember this one. I didn't actually get to watch it though, unfortunately. So I'm going to read this part like, well, I don't know. We're going to do it though. So in 2020, when the world shut down because of COVID-19, much like everybody else, the Grand Ole Opry was faced with some difficult choices. And they had to cancel live audiences, much like the rest of us that, you know, were putting on events. I was in Monster Truck, so we really couldn't do anything. Joe Sylvester did a COVID show where it was actually streamed on like Fight TV or something, and so like that was pretty cool and unprecedented. Let's see. They broadcasted live without an audience for their Saturday shows for a while. The show continued to broadcast live on WSM Radio and Circle TV, and that had just launched in January of 2020, the Circle TV. So they finally had a live audience again in October of 2020, and that kicked off their 95th anniversary. Man, 5 years ago. Right? Obviously, because now we're at 100. By welcoming back 500 guests into the Opry House. That's so cool. And so they began a month-long celebration of the Opry, and of course country music. The fact that we've hit 100 years, and like they have actual pews for their seating, it just like there's so many cool things about the Opry. It's such a special place. Ringo Starr, we talked about his country album. He actually got to do an Opry debut this year already, which is really, really cool. I may not be a Ringo fan. Like, I may have, because to me his country album is very Beatlesy. But he gave it a shot, and he did well. It's not for me. It's not even that it's necessarily not too far outside of the realm of what I like. It's just very Beatlesy in the writing, in the performing, like in the sounds and stuff. So it's just not for me. But if you like those kinds of things, it's definitely for you. So highly recommend it. It just won't be winning, album of the year. Which, I mean, this is a teeny tiny show and nobody cares. But I enjoy doing it, and I'm glad that I get to do it. But that's so cool. So many different kinds of stars, and especially like all these people that are dipping into country right now that are just like doing different country stuff. Ooh, Ann Wilson and Lenny Wilson did a song together at the Opry. I wonder what that is. I'll have to watch that later. Anyways, let's go ahead and look at artists, Opry members. So, Opry members, we have, it's in alphabetical order: Trace Adkins, Lauren Elena, Bill Anderson, Kelsea Ballerini, Bobby Bare, Mandy Barnett, Derek Spentley, Clint Black, Garth Brooks, Stephen Curtis Chapman, Henry Cho, Terry Clark, Luke Combs, John Conley, Daly and Vincent, Diamond Rio, Sarah Evans, Gary Mule Deer, Crystal Gale, Vince Gill, Emmylou Harris, Alan Jackson, Chris Jansen, Jamie Johnson, Allison Krauss, Lady A, Little Big Town, Patty Loveless, Dustin Lynch, Barbara Mandrell, Martina McBride, Ashley McBride, Del McCreary, Charlie McCoy, Scotty McCreary, Reba McEntire, Ronnie Millsap, Eddie Montgomery, Craig Morgan, Lori Morgan, Old Crow Medicine Show, Brad Paisley, John Party, Dolly Parton, Carly Pierce, Stu Phillips, Gene Pruitt, Rascal Flatts, Riders in the Sky, Darius Rucker, Don Schlitz, Jeannie Seeley, Blake Shelton, Ricky Skaggs, Connie Smith, Mike Snyder, Marty Stewart, T. Graham Brown, the Gatlin Brothers, the Isaacs, the Oak Ridge Boys, the Whites, Pam Tillis, Randy Travis, Travis Tritt, Josh Turner, Carrie Underwood, Keith Urban, Ricky Van Shelton, Rhonda Vincent, Steve Werner, Gene Watson, Mark Wills, Lainey Wilson, Trisha Yearwood, and Chris Young. Those are all the current living members of the Grand Ole Opry. Now, how is it decided? The decision to increase the Opry's ranks is and always has been made exclusively by the show's management, the people who've been entrusted with Opry's tradition and future direction. Take into account all the standards of success in country music: radio airplay, recorded music sales, touring success, industry recognition, when considering an act for membership. And obviously, like they stick with not only like obviously like big time, country music people, but people that technically tend to trend on the more traditional side of music, because like Kelsea Ballerini, like some of her country stuff is pretty good. Carrie Underwood, same thing. There, like, a lot of it is very like traditional sounding country. Even Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood and whatnot. But the Opry doesn't simply pass out invitations to the biggest stars with the most hits. Opry management looks for musical and generational balance. Obviously, you gotta have a good foothold. So I think that that's awesome. Eventually, we could see Jelly Roll in there, and some others. I would think, but the people that we got right now, I think, are a really big deal. Oh, that's cool. Luke Combs with Alabama. Wait, were they the ones that got to ask him? At least that's what it looks like. Oh, maybe it's not. I don't think it is. Okay, I might be wrong. It's so cool to see like other people who are members and stuff ask, like getting the opportunity to bring in new people. I hope we have another 100 years of the Grand Ole Opry. I hope it continues for a very long time. It is so cool because, like, that's the like you made it thing. Like, people talk about different awards and CMAs and stuff. No, like getting asked to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry, like that is it. Like that's the big deal right there. At least in my opinion. But let's see. Coming up, Tracy Lawrence has done some shows and stuff there recently. In each live show, 8 or more artists from Opry members like Ricky Skaggs and Keith Urban to up-and-comers like Ella Langley and 49 Winchester celebrate this genre's rich legacy while stepping into its next chapter. So, obviously, like April 1st, they're doing a Grand Ole Opry 100 featuring the Clever Release, Taylor Hicks, Colin Ray, Taya, Rhonda Vincent, Tucker Wetmore, Haley Witters. April 2nd on Wednesday, Mandy Bennett, T. Graham Brown, Charles Eston, Carter Faith, Willie Jones, Bronwyn, Keith Hines, Riders in the Sky, and Don Schlitz. Opry Classics on Thursday featuring Oak Ridge Boys, Mickey Guyton, Gatlin Brothers, T.G. Shepard, Rhonda Vincent, and more. And Eddie Montgomery is going to be there on April 4th, which is a Friday, including the Del McCoury Band, Mike Ferris, Tiger Lily Gold, Dusty Slay, Mark Wills. So some big stuff coming in different shows. Craig Morgan's going to be there on April 8th, along with a handful of others. Oh, including comedian John Crist, it looks like. Just a lot of, cool celebrations. Oh, this is neat. Titan of Twang, celebration of Dwayne Eddy on April 13th, which is a Sunday. Peter Frampton, Vince Gill, Albert Lee, Joe Bonamassa, Steve Earle, Beth Nielsen, Buddy Miller, Molly Tuttle, J.D. McPherson, Slim Jim Fenton, Jenny V, Toby Lee, the Del McCoury Band, and others are going to be there performing stuff. So, very, very cool. So, you could go there to the actual Opry, like the show, the Opry, and take in one of their shows. However, if you wanted to go to the Ryman and look at a show, things that we got coming up, let's see. Tonight, if you can make it tonight, we have the What the World Needs Now, the Bacharach Songbook Live. Then you have The Road, which I guess is some sort of country music show that I'm not familiar with. April 3rd is Mark Normand. April 4th, we also have Ryman Sidewalk Sessions with Kiran Gupta. Humphrey McGee presents Bowl 11. Okay. See, Kid Rock's Comedy Jam, hosted by Kid Rock, on April 7th over at the Ryman. Nikki Glazer will be there April 9th and 10th. Jim Jeffries there on April 11th. Jay Leno, April 12th. A lot of comedians playing the Ryman here lately. Over at the Opry House, they have on there. So CeCe Winans on April 14th. Amos Lee, April. Come on. Give me something good, Ryman. I'm a little disappointed in some of these things. I mean, people will enjoy it, I guess. Obviously, because, like, what they're having. Another sidewalk session with Cameron Reese. Rodney Atkins on April 26th. There we go. Not familiar with either of them. Maddie and Tay on May 1st. Oh, there you go. Somebody that I like a lot. Drew and Ellie Holcomb on May 2nd through the 3rd. That'll be good. Just looking through here, trying to Amy Grant on May 9th through the 10th. Paul Simon May 11th, 13th, and 14th. Carly Pierce. There we go. Tracy Lawrence on May 18th, 2025. I was looking to see, like, maybe we had some Tucker Whitmore on May 21st. Oh, really wanted to see if we had any, like, metal bands playing there. Doesn't really look like it. Which is fine. Doesn't necessarily have to. Jet will be there June 10th. Penn and Teller. Wow, they look like Penn looks way different. And of course, then, like, Kevin Hart. Oh, the Wiggles. They actually released a country song, believe it or not. Casey Musgraves is going to be there in June. George Thorogood and the Destroyers on June 25th. That's pretty cool. And there's a bunch of other shows and stuff, too, and you can check it out yourself. But, yeah. Yeah. Speaking of, yeah. That's funny. Ricky Skaggs, July 22nd. So, there you go. I went through some dates and stuff for you because I wanted to try to cover a little bit of that. But the Grand Ole Opry has been around a long time. Seen all different kinds of things. Different kinds of music. It's kind of cool to think about what the Opry has done for country music because it put it out there for people. Like thinking all the way back to obviously way before my time with Hank Sr. in particular being on the Opry. Think about like all the stuff that people got to hear. You know, I'm so lonesome I could cry. You know, just, you know, the songs about being a drifter, you know, being a, you know, drifting cowboy and stuff. And it's like where country music started with Hank Sr. and where it's going, the people, you know, and along with that, like where it's going, but like the people that have helped keep, not necessarily keep it the same, but to take traditional things and modernize and recreate and keep a little piece of that old school style alive, to continue the growth of the Grand Ole Opry, to keep it around, to keep it alive, to keep it going. And that takes people even backstage that never ever see the stage, because it takes planning. It takes a lot of effort. It takes, like it talked about with the decision making on who's going to join the Opry family next. A lot goes into it, and I'm super thankful for all of it. But we've talked for a little while now, and I don't want to keep you all for forever. Thank you so much for spending your Monday with me. Celebrate the Grand Ole Opry by listening to some people that have been Opry members, including, Dolly, Waylon, Luke Combs, I'll throw him in there, Johnny, June, both Hanks, more recent Tracy Lawrence, Vince Gill, Ricky Skaggs. Ricky Skaggs is like the ultimate member, because he's been such a member for so long and has done so much for the Opry. Montgomery Gentry, one of my absolute favorite 90s duos for sure. Maybe even more so than Brooks and Dunn, because they rocked. But that's all I got for you guys today. Listen to some awesome country music. We'll be back next week. Maybe. Look for an episode, but if it doesn't happen, I just ran out of time. But I'm going to try to get an episode out next week. But the week after that, we're definitely off. So, yeah, just some things to keep in mind. And thank you guys so much for hanging out and for listening to Tin Roof Podcast.